My social anxiety was so bad that I literally walked the halls in circles by myself for 40 minutes every morning in order to not feel like I was in the spotlight of others. Yeah, I did this every day. Let me share a little backstory of why I did this. I grew up going to a really small private school where I had a few friends that I felt safe with. Interactions with anyone else put me in an anxiety nightmare. I cruised along through school, managing to get through each day, even with my social anxiety, until my sophomore year of high school. My parents could no longer afford to send both my brother and myself to private school. So they sent us to a nearby public school, which happened to be one of the largest public schools in the area, with about 1,600 students total. Just so you know how big of a shock this was for me, my private school that I was attending had a total of 200 students in the entire high school. The first day of school, I waited at the bus stop to ride the bus to school for the first time in my life, and I didn't really know what to expect other than
the worst.
I finally got off the bus and I walked into this school, which felt like an airport with the amount of students flooding the halls. Anxiety was at its peak at this point, especially after I realized I had 40 minutes until my first class started every morning. Most students spent that time hanging out with friends. I lost all of my friends. I knew absolutely no one at this school. I was alone, anxious, and scared as hell. I wanted to find a spot to just sit down and be by myself, but I couldn't do that. I feared people would negatively judge me, saying things like, "Who's that kid over there by himself?" or "That kid has no friends, what a loser." You know, typical things social anxiety has your brain thinking is true. On the spot, I came up with a plan to make this 40 minutes more manageable for myself. I started to walk the halls in large circles, knowing that I would just be able to blend in and no one would ever know that I'm just repeating the same path over and over again. Until eventually one day, somebody did. I took a seat on the bus to head home from school, and someone called me out in front of everybody and said, "Why do you walk the halls in circles every morning?" I felt so embarrassed, ashamed, and humiliated that I don't even think I answered that question. Now, after walking the halls successfully for a month, I knew I could no longer pursue doing that plan due to embarrassment. So from that day forward, I would walk into school, go into the bathroom, sit in the stall, and I would cry. And I would have all these thoughts in my head like, "Kyle, why can't you do this, man? Why can't you talk to people? Why can't you make friends? Why is everyone else able to do this? Why aren't you normal?" This is what eventually brought me on the mission that I am on today, which is to help 1 million teens go from socially anxious to socially confident. Because I don't want teens to go through the same experiences that I did in school. I want to share with you what social anxiety was like for me and so many others in school. Let's take a dive into my 15-year-old brain. Picture this. I could not make friends. Now, don't get me wrong, I desperately wanted to make friends. I just didn't know how to do this. I could even remember sitting up in my bed at night, trying to think of strategies on how I could achieve the task of making a friend the next day. And I would think to myself, well, maybe I'll just say hi to somebody. And then I'd be like, no, that's way too scary. Maybe I'll ask to borrow a pencil. This will get the conversation going, and then maybe we'll somehow become friends. As you can probably tell, I struggled severely with social anxiety, and having little to no confidence was just a small byproduct of that. You can see here, I'm not the only one who struggles or struggled with feeling anxious when meeting new people. So these are results from all the teens that I have spoken to. I use a piece of software where they can anonymously answer questions, and these are the results I have gotten from all the teens that I've spoken to. Now think about this. Doing any sort of public speaking or presentations in class put me in anxiety overload. So for example, if I had to give a speech in one of the later classes of my day, you know what I would do all day? I would think and worry about that presentation I had to give in 6th or 7th period. And when I finally did get to that class where I was supposed to give a speech or presentation, I would sit at my desk, and this is literally what I would do. I would listen to the order of, when I was supposed to speak in line, and then I would sit at my desk and I would hope that the fire alarm would go off. Or I would hope that the person in front of me would speak too long and we wouldn't have time to get to me that day. Of course, this rarely ever happened, and eventually my name would get called, in which I would numbly walk up to the front of class, turn around, and see a sea of my classmates' eyes staring at me, expecting something great, and I knew it wasn't about to happen. Clearly, my life was run by fear and anxiety. Once again, not alone here. As you can see, over 50% marked at least a 4 on their social anxiety ranking when it comes to public speak. Finally, here's one more for you. I thought people thought negative things about me, even though I had zero evidence to back it up. Because that's the thing about social anxiety. You don't have to have evidence of people negatively judging you or saying mean things about you or making fun of you for this necklace that I'm wearing. It feels 100% true up here. I constantly felt like I was just in this giant spotlight where everyone was looking, staring, and negatively judging me for every little thing that I did. Clearly, I had little to no self-worth. This stat just shows and proves that all of us have a little social anxiety part. According to the National Comorbidity Survey Adolescent Supplement, 9.1% of teens have social anxiety disorder. And according to the ADAA, which is the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, 36% of those teens wait at least a decade before ever asking for help. This is a different kind of pandemic. This is a silent pandemic. You may be wondering to yourself, when did I realize I needed to make a change in my life? This happened to me when I was in college and living in my own apartment, and I realized something. I realized that I don't want to live the rest of my life, however long that is, 50, 60, 70 years, feeling like this. I imagine myself as an old man still feeling like this, and how disappointed I would be in myself and my life for doing that. And that's when I decided having social anxiety dictate every decision I make in my life is no longer an option for me. I didn't really know what I was gonna do, but I did know I was going to do anything and everything to keep social anxiety from dictating my life. This is when my 3-step process began to take shape. And I want to take you all through these 3 steps so you can start putting these into action in your life for your social anxiety. Step 1 is to shower yourself with self-love. Now, according to Cascio, there is MRI evidence suggesting that certain neural pathways in our brain actually expand when we practice self-affirmation tasks. If you want to get super specific with it, the ventromedial prefrontal cortex in our brains, which is responsible for things like emotional processing, self-perception, actually becomes more active when we take into account our own personal values. And according to Weisenfeld, there have been studies that show our tendency to linger on negative experiences actually decreases when we practice these self-affirmations. Now think to yourself, What are some of these self-affirmations that you would use in your life? Now start making it a part of your routine. And let me know down below, share a comment with not only myself, but others who are looking for self-affirmations to use. Now, let's move on to step 2, which is to find a baby step uncomfortable challenge. Now, when I say uncomfortable challenge, what I mean is something that's going to make you feel a little bit anxious, a little bit nervous, something that's going to take you just a little bit outside your comfort zone. Now, if you've ever heard of the term exposure therapy, that's what I'm talking about. And according to medicalnewstoday.com, 60 to 90% of people who use this exposure therapy method either have no symptoms or very mild symptoms after the completion of using exposure therapy. But why do I say baby step uncomfortable challenge? I say this because we don't want to do something so far outside our comfort zone that it actually sends our mental health for a loop and makes us feel even more anxious than we did before. We want to do something that where we can feel that anxiety just a little bit. So an analogy I like to use is your baby steps should be something like if you had a pool of water filled with, let's say, anxiety water. We want just enough to get our toe wet. That's it. Now, a baby step uncomfortable challenge can really take form in many different ways, and it varies person to person because social anxiety is really on a spectrum, right? So we're all at different levels. So you have to find something that's just a little bit outside of your own comfort zone. This could be smiling at a stranger, giving someone a high five, going to the grocery store and saying, hey, where can I find XYZ? So what are those seemingly simple yet difficult challenges you can give yourself? They should be simple to put in place. They don't have to be huge. They just need to be enough discomfort to take you to that next level. This is what led me to coming up with step 3, which made the whole process much easier and more fun. And that is to reward your efforts over your results. Now, I say efforts because it only takes effort to go outside your comfort zone. That's it. You can control that, but you can't control the results of these challenges. Sometimes they'll go exactly how you think they will, and sometimes they won't. And that's okay, because we go back to focusing on the effort, knowing that, hey, I went outside my comfort zone, even though it didn't go the way I wanted it to, I still went out and I did that thing. Now, to help your brain start to focus more on the effort instead of the result, it's good to start rewarding yourself after you put in the effort in one of these challenges. Once again, we're not rewarding the result, we're rewarding our efforts because we can always control that. When I first started doing these challenges in college, my first reward was to give myself 1 hour of playing Xbox before starting on my homework. This worked really well for me, but you can also come up with different rewards. You could do a lunch date with a friend, maybe go get a special coffee from Starbucks that's way overpriced. Or you could do something as simple as just have a 20-minute Netflix break in the middle of the day. I don't care what it is. Just make sure it's something that is rewarding for you and your brain. So start thinking, how are you going to reward yourself? And maybe even use this as a little bit of incentive to help you get through this first challenge. As I mentioned before, my mission is to help 1 million teens go from socially anxious to socially confident. Now, whether this is you or your kid or maybe a friend or someone else that you just care and love about that is struggling, I am sharing this video and this information for you or that person. If you do need help or support with taking on these 3 steps, because I know it can be a lot, especially in the beginning, and there may be other things that we need to kind of uncover and tackle as far as, maybe some self-acceptance or self-love issues. I do offer one-on-one coaching in which I will do this with you. Now, I won't hold your hand while we do exposure therapy challenges, but I will guide you and help you come up with challenges, help you come up with ways to bring more self-love, how you can find ways to get out there and do these baby step challenges and do them correctly and find ways to become more and more socially confident. If you're interested in that, I'll put a link in the description. If not, if you want to try this out on your own, cool with me. My only thing is, try to get somebody else to do it with you. Why I say that is because it's much easier if you have an accountability partner, somebody to kind of help you and you help them, and you guys are kind of in this together instead of doing this all by yourself. Thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching this on Thanksgiving, have a great Thanksgiving. I know I'm going to be celebrating with my family and hanging out. I hope you all are doing the same. Much love to everybody out there. And as always, please subscribe, share this video to anyone that you think may find value out of it. Until next week, peace.